Hi everyone, and welcome to the Creatives Tarot, the YouTube channel that helps you supercharge your creativity and pursue your passions. My name is Melissa, and I am so glad that you are here with me today. We're doing another Tarot Tuesday video, and I am super excited to dig into this. I mean, last week was such a heavy week, Who knew? I mean, I think a lot of us sensed it because we didn't think that we would roll into January 2021 and everything would magically disappear from the last year. But I still think none of us were prepared. And even if you are prepared, it's still hard to go through some of the challenges that we saw, some of the historic things that were happening in our nation and the ripple effect that that has across the globe. So I wanted to do something a little bit different, just slow us down, allow us to be in the moment, allow us to think about what do we need collectively for healing, for unity, for self-care. How do we move forward? How do we take care of ourselves, especially as creatives, especially as artists, especially as these sort of small fish in this much bigger world? What do we need to do to protect our creative energy and to sustain ourselves physically, mentally, and emotionally so that we can be productive parts of our community? So that's what we're going to dig into. We're going to look at the year of the Hierophant, which is what this year is, 2021. What does that mean as we roll out of the year of the Emperor and into this year? We're going to do a reading for healing, just collective reading, and we're going to talk about self-care practices. So I can't wait. I've got a lot of decks out that we're going to be using, and I will put the decks in the description below. Just a warning, some of these decks are little things that I picked up at random shops, so they may not be in print. I don't know. They may not be on Amazon, but I'll list the names below just in case you want to search for them or you really like some of the messages and ideas that are in the cards. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to talk about was the year of the Hierophant. And I don't know if I'm saying that right. That's just how I pronounce it. I could be wrong. Who knows? The Hierophant is card number 5 in the major arcana. And if you add up the numbers in numerology, 2, 2, and 1, you get 5. So that this is the year of the Hierophant. Last year was the year of the Emperor. It was the number numerology was 4. And the Emperor is heavy energy. It is all about authoritarianism, rigidity, discipline, staying within the lines, following the rules, the year of law and order. And I think that really did manifest in our reality, whether it was, a pandemic and all of the rules and regulations that had to come into play to keep people safe, whether it was the protests and this real conversation about police brutality in America and what that means, and these clashes of ideas coming up, or it was about stuff in the White House itself, right? There was a lot of law and order, a lot of, sort of dictator energy, authoritarianism energy, and beliefs that were happening in 2020. And I think what we're seeing is that cleanup happening in 2021. One of my biggest sort of pet peeves right now is that everybody's like, well, the first week, it was such a shit show. It was horrible. It was a disaster. And this is what 2021 is going to be about. And I just want to be like, slow your roll, people. Okay. We are on day 11, right? So please do not doom the other 350 some days that we have in this year because we got off to a rough start. And I want to say, did we get off to a rough start? Yes, there were some traumatic, awful things that happened, but this is part of the cleanup, right? This is us coming together and realizing and uniting and saying no, this is not who we are. This is not what we want. When you think about where we are this year, we have a lot of different energy coming into play, not just because the tarot deck changed and now we're in the year of the Hierophant, or because we've moved past some of these major conjunctions that happened in 2020 and the energy of Mercury and Pluto and Saturn that was really heavily influencing all of our lives and bringing in that order and that structure, but because we have vaccines, right? We have vaccines. We are on a path to vaccinations and to, beating this pandemic. We have newly elected officials and we have, I think, a sense of a unification of democracy. And what does it really mean? And our systems are being tested, but they are also proving to withstand attacks on those systems. So like there is a lot to be hopeful for. We're setting the stage, but we are cleaning up the mess, and that can be painful and it can be difficult. But we've got to weed the garden. We've got to get rid of the things that are out to destroy us. And I think the year of the Hierophant is all about unity and coming together. So let's talk a little bit about this, because as I read through some of the traditional definitions of the Hierophant, you might panic because you could be like, oh, people can take these and they can turn them around and they can become really vile and evil things. Yes. So like, it's really important that we educate ourselves, and it's really important that we find ways to unify and work together against our common threats. So what is the year of the Hierophant? I'm going to put a screen up here somewhere. Okay. So education. There's a big theme for this energy in this card, right? Pursuing knowledge, becoming informed, increasing your understanding, wisdom, right? Studying and understanding and just seeking deeper meanings, belief systems, right? So here we are sharing a cultural heritage, religious tradition, ceremony, rituals, identifying our worldview, knowing where to put your faith. That's a really big thing with this card, is the belief systems, the things that we believe in, the things and the values that we hold sacred. They may be tested, but like ultimately our commitment to those beliefs are what get us through. Conformity, being able to follow the rules. Everyone follows the rules, right? That it's not pick and choose. Taking an orthodox approach, staying within conventional boundaries, adapting to the system and fitting in, right? Sometimes that conformity can be really bad and we have to break free. And other times we need that conformity. We need people to play by a certain baseline set of rules in order for us to function. And then lastly, group identification. So being committed to a cause, joining an organization, devoting energy to your group, feeling loyal to others, and working as a team, working as a collective. So I think this energy is really positive. I'm excited about this card. I'm excited about the energy that 2021 is bringing. I think it will be tough. I think there are going to be continued tensions and continued moments. We cannot rid out things that have been, really stewing in our nation for, not just 1 year, but we're talking decades of hate and of mistrust and of lies. And we have to clean that up, and it's not going to happen in a few days. It's not going to happen in a few weeks. It will be painful, but ultimately it will better position us for the future. So I wanted to flag that. I'm really excited. I also want to talk about a couple of cards and just walk you through some of my favorite Hierophant cards. So let's talk about that. The two decks that I use the most are the Light Seer's Tarot deck and the Spacious Tarot deck. And I love both of these decks because they just bring a certain amount of lightness, right? Of positive energy and outlook, of a sense of healing and growth. Even cards that are traditionally feel heavy, feel negative, feel constraining, feel like painful journeys. In these two decks, the approach is really about like, what do you learn from them? How do you go through them and still find peace and joy, or peace and comfort, right? Like, how do you sit in those moments and grow, right? And so that's what I really like about these two decks. So this is the Hierophant card. You can see it. Hopefully it focuses a little bit. There's the Hierophant card. And this is from the Light Seer's Tarot deck. I think it's one of the most beautiful cards. I mean, the drawings in these cards are just so great. And so what do you notice? You notice the stairway up into sort of heaven or ascension. So I always think about ascending into a higher place, a place of peace and joy and comfort. When you think of it as Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Your baser needs are covered, you're rising up, and you're finding fulfillment and contentment. A couple of things that they call out in this deck is enlightenment or awakening in service of a spirit, formal education or training in new paradigms, outdated systems or ways of thinking and what it's in reverse, dogma or rebelling against societal norms, abuse of power and stagnation when it's in reverse, and an ego-based leadership when it's in reverse. So this is very appropriate for following our Emperor card and where we are right now. And let me tell you, every time I've done a reading so far this year, this card has been in reverse, right? Which ego-based leadership, right? Like moving away from ego-based leadership is something that just keeps coming up consistently in every single read that I do. So let me read you a little bit of their description here, which is, as you search for your divine truth, you create frameworks of belief that help you expand your consciousness and ground your faith into this reality. If you've been stuck in an old tradition or structured way of acting or being that is no longer serving you, it is time to let it fall away in order to make spaces for the better version of you. The Hierophant serves as a gateway between the divine source and the seeker. So be open to new paradigms, perspectives, and teachers in your life. Look for the patterns around you and strive to understand your own internal compass. So I think this is interesting. Like this deck, this particular deck definitely speaks more to your own individual path. But I do think this applies also to our collective, right? Like collectively, we have to move through these things. And then let's look at the Spacious Tarot. This is also an interesting one. We have these ruins here. So again, you think about lightness, you think about peace, you think about ritual and ceremony, ancient traditions, ancient concepts that we still hold dear and that we still practice. The Hierophant summons you to explore your beliefs. It is important, as important as your individuality, it is also important to know that you are a member of something bigger. Having a sense of group identity is a vital aspect of this card. Although the Hierophant has been traditionally linked to organized religion, the sense of belonging can arise in endless settings. So embrace the type of community that is right for you. The Hierophant also shows us the value of education. Be open to the teachers you encounter, but be cautious of dogma. A good instructor does not aim to convince you that their way is the only way to be correct. Seek instructors who guide you in finding the way that is right for you. So that is kind of a note on what kind of leadership are we looking for? What kind of instructors, what kind of mentors, both in our creative life, but also in our spiritual life and our political leanings and our religious believing, whatever. Like make sure you're not just giving in to people who only support you if you believe in their ways, right? Like what you want are people who are going to educate you, are going to teach you to be critical thinkers, who want you to come to their side having understood the opportunities and weighed the pros and cons and really owning those belief systems. So I think that's really fascinating. Let's get into a reading now and just shuffle some cards and see what's coming up. Right, so I just did some shuffling and I am really excited to dig into this reading. These cards look really, really informative. So let's get started. I'm first going to do the tarot decks and then we'll go into some of the affirmation decks and wellness decks and self-care practices that came up. Now, reminder, this is all about collective energy. So what do we need to do as a collective, as a human race, as Americans, as citizens? What do we need to do to move forward and to heal? And what do we need to be aware of? So the first cards that I pulled were really about just like, what is the energy that is around us right now? What is happening right now that we need to be aware of? And so a couple of things. So we have this Empress energy in reverse. So Empress energy is usually very nurturing, very mothering, very freeing. This is about compassion. It is about cultivating things. You see this garden, right? It's about growing. It's about propagating seeds, bringing life into the world. And it's stifled, right? When this is in reverse, that means it's blocked. This creativity is probably blocked for a lot of us. Starting new businesses, starting new ideas, starting new projects. Like we don't have enough energy right now to grow and manifest and use our abilities, our innate gifts and abilities to bring beautiful things into this world. Right now, we're kind of collectively in cleanup mode. And so this is being blocked, and that hopefully won't be forever. But right now, if you're not feeling that, if you're not feeling excited and creative and starting a new project or being super productive, that's okay. That's okay right now. That is the energy that is around. Like, this is not being allowed to manifest. Why not? We've got two things coming up that are really important. So we've got the Eight of Swords in reverse. Eight of Swords is all about feeling trapped, being confined. This is often about the stories we tell ourselves. This is often in our head. Everything in the Swords is really about our logic, our head, our thoughts, the way we perceive the world. And the Eight of Swords in particular is about feeling trapped, about feeling bound, or believing we're bound. I won't even say feeling. It's believing that we are bound when we maybe actually aren't. And a lot of times this is the mind telling us that we can't do something, or something's unjust, or something's unfair. And we're like willing to believe those stories, even if they're not true. Sometimes, especially if they're not true, it's playing the victim. So there's a lot of energy there, in the collective, that's like, a good chunk of us don't want to acknowledge where we're at. A good chunk of us don't want to face realities. A good chunk of us are stuck in these stories that we tell ourselves and don't want to see, don't want to step away, don't want to realize that we are out here and we have power and control. We're picturing ourselves here, tied to the tree, like the victim, right? With these really lame ropes that are not really binding us to anything. So that energy is present right now. We have to stop, playing the victim. We have to stop acting surprised. We have to stop believing that this is something that caught us off guard, or that we can't believe actually happened. We know why this happened, right? Like, we have to start facing the truth. And then we have the Explorer of Cups. So traditionally, I think of this, the Explorer of Cups would be the Knight of Cups card in a traditional deck. And that is often, I often call that the romance card, the like wooing card. It's kind of the Knight of Cups is kind of like a player energy, this energy of being super fickle and like hot and cold and super infatuated, and they go all the way. They're like, oh, I love this person. I just met them 2 minutes ago and they are my soulmate and I want to do everything with them. And it's just like everything is sort of overly dramatic and overkill. They are not reliable. They're not consistent. This energy can often be over dramatic. It can often be very fickle and very moody. You don't plant your foundation in this space. So this energy right here is like, there's going to be a lot of people in society with microphones who are out there being really fickle, right? Promising you the moon, and in a week that's going to change. That's what the energy tells me right here, is that like, this is not going to be consistent. This is the time to go and explore and listen, to hear, to have conversations, to try new things, but also know that some of the stuff that's being said and shared and told and planned, and the promises that are being made, are not going to be kept. Just kind of negative. Sorry, but that's what that card means. It's like, if somebody proposes to you and this card comes up, I'm like, oh, like, that's not going to work out, right? That's not the card for this. Let's look at the other deck. So the other deck, I pulled cards that are speaking to more of like, what do we need? What do we need? What advice? How do we get through this week? And a couple of things came up. Not surprising. Let's start with the first thing. Let's start with this. So the Six of Pentacles came up. And so the Six of Pentacles is in reverse. Usually I think of this as like give and take. So how are we giving and how are we taking? And is there a balance here? And so what I'm seeing right now is there's not a balance, right? There's not a balance. We're not giving or taking. Maybe we're hoarding all of our stuff. We're not thinking about the collective. We're not thinking about each other. We're not thinking about putting our own needs aside and thinking about what the larger society needs. And that's something that we need to do. So we need to figure out how to change this mentality in order to break free. We need to recognize that sometimes we need to make sacrifices. Sometimes we need to, stop judging other folks and allow time and space for healing. So it's like giving. And sometimes giving can just be giving people space, giving them a platform, lifting their voice, right? I don't know, like that's just what I'm getting here. Surprise, surprise. We have the Hierophant card. What do we need right now? Again, Hierophant, education, belief systems, conformity, group identification, understanding what our shared values are, and then holding people accountable to those values. That's what's coming up right now. And we have the Eight of Pentacles along with that. Eight of Pentacles with the Hierophant is a reinforcing card, meaning that this is all about, again, learning, studying, focus and discipline, like really understanding, usually I would say a craft. Like, so if you're creative, like this is really mastering your skills. But in this sense, in the question that I asked and in the cards that came up, this is telling us that like we need to double down on pursuing knowledge and becoming informed about what's happening. Investigations, studying and understanding, making deeper connections, not just buying the surface level stuff that's being told, not just falling for that Explorer of Cups and like sitting and being content and what we already know, but breaking free and really learning more about the situation and circumstances. So that's what we need to keep in mind this week and maybe even this month moving forward as a collective. Let's look at some of the self-care advice that came up. Okay, so first thing that came up is this card. This is from our Universe Has Your Back card, or deck, sorry. I honor how I want to feel. So as the week goes by, I want you to think about this. Like, how do you want to feel? How do you want to feel? And honor that. Carve space out in your life for that. If you want to feel joy, write down what makes you feel joy and then put it in your schedule. Whether it's 5 minutes or an hour. If it's like, I want to read a book, turn off the TV, turn off the news, turn off the social media, and allow yourself to read a book. If you want to take a bath, I love taking baths on the new moon. That's coming up this week, right? Honor how you feel. If you feel sad, honor that. If you feel angry, honor that. Allow yourself to honor that. Allow yourselves to be angry, to be sad. But don't feel guilty if you want to have a moment of peace, or a moment of joy, or a moment of laughter. Other things that came up. So this is from our Spiritual Wisdom deck. I had 2 cards come out. This one I almost didn't keep. I was like, oh God, this came out again. And I had almost taken this card out of the deck because I don't practice yoga a lot. And so I don't understand all of the concepts. This is ahimsa. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But basically it's compassion is the basis of ahisma, the principle of nonviolence and of the spirit of yoga. Advancement in yoga is connected to your compassion towards others and your recognition that suffering to others is your own suffering and the happiness of others is your own happiness. So I was going to take it out. I didn't. I decided at the last minute to keep it in. And then of course it came out. So I feel like that message it rings true for the collective and what you need. I'll put it up here so that you can read it. Oh, it's starting to get a little blurry. Yeah, what I think about that is interesting. It's like, it's a principle of nonviolence. It's the spirit of yoga, this idea of compassion, which I think is going to come up in a couple of other cards. And then we had tolerance is the second one. So this is the other card here, tolerance. And this is both of these have to do with relationships. Preserving loving relations in the world requires forgiveness, tolerance, patience, gratitude, and humility. The tendency to judge others is often a symptom of insecurity, immaturity, or selfishness. So as we're thinking about our individual, like what can we offer to the group individually, and let's go back to that 6 of Pentacles here, which is usually like giving material objects or possessions, whether it's money or wealth or, food or shelter or something like that. Also think about what can we give in terms of spirit of who we are and how we exist and how we interact with each other. That compassion, that patience, that humility, that gratitude. I know we are angry, and I know it's very easy to judge and to berate and belittle people who maybe made some bad choices. And I'm not excusing some of the like people who are leading up to death and destruction, but I'm talking about your family members. I know there are some people who are like, but my aunt believes this, or my mother-in-law believes this, or so-and-so believes this. And I don't know how to come to terms with that. And so this is just a reminder that it's not, there's different degrees of tolerance. But I do think it's important that we find a balance collectively. I think, yeah, I don't know what that looks like. And I think that's on that's on all sides, right? That's not, this is not, I don't want people to take this and say, oh, well, if you're just telling Democrats that they should accept everything. I am certainly not. I'm certainly not excusing people or saying that like we should just turn the other cheek and that's okay. What I am saying is that I think that on both sides, on all sides, like we will not get anywhere until we learn how to practice tolerance of each other and differing views, and how we learn to come together to fight a unified threat to our entire society. Okay. Let's do some quotes and meditations here. So we have a quote to meditate on. When you check your own mind properly, you stop blaming others for your problems. You recognize that your mistaken actions come from your own defiled, deluded mind. This was the Lama Tibetan Yeshi. I don't know who that is. Again, this is from a meditation and sort of Buddhist deck, but that's the quote. Yeah, it's not going to focus. And then the affirmation, I have everything I need right now for an abundant life. So that's your affirmation. I have everything I need right now for an abundant life. I will put some of these on my Instagram account so that you can see these and reflect on them on your own. And then lastly, we're going to do some yoga moves, because I really believe it's not just that we get our mind right, but that we also get our physical bodies right, that we practice movement. Movement is great for relieving tension. A lot of us are carrying this tension and anxiety in our bodies. So let's talk about that a little bit. I pulled 3 yoga positions from the Play Pause Be deck. And this can be your little yoga routine this week. So the first is the neck stretches. So practicing the neck stretches here. And that's really sitting in any comfortable position. You don't have to sit on the floor if that's uncomfortable or painful for you. You can do this at your desk while you're working. You can do it on a park bench if you're on a walk, or in the grass if you want to be outside and breathe in the fresh air and it's warm enough to do so. But it's really that back and down, side to side, and then this way and this way. So allow yourself to inhale and exhale deeply and just slowly move through those motions to take some of that tension out of your neck and shoulders. The second one is around for your back, and it's the cat-cow pose. So this is down on your knees, stretching out that back. Again, where we carry a lot of tension, have a lot of stress, right? Sitting, being sedentary, my writer friends who are sitting at a desk all day long, right? Make sure you're doing that one. And then lastly, we have a side triangle pose, like a side stretch here. So again, working on that core, working on the side, working on the back, working on the neck. This week is going to be really important, I think, for you to get a little bit of movement. And you can do this before you take a walk. Do a little walking meditation, but I do want you to move. I want you to find outlets to let out some of this anxiety, let out some of the energy. Don't be cooped up. If you're like me in LA, like I think I might do some stretching on my balcony. So, I can't go anywhere because COVID, but I can do movement. And I can journal and I can reflect. So that's the reading that I have for you. I hope that it was helpful collectively. I try to be a little bit more educational in some of these readings and share some wisdom that are coming through from the cards and things that I'm doing. We can talk more about these decks and some of the self-care tools that I use on Self-Care Sunday series. I'm hoping to get more video content like that up. Last week was traumatic, and then I had a fire in our building. So I had to deal with that, and I didn't get to record over the weekend. So yeah, I'm excited. I hope you enjoyed this. If you're looking for something around the new moon, which is on Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, that's when the new moon energy is at its peak. But you can also do things like today, or even well, I guess today is Tuesday, but I'm recording on Monday. But you could do things even a few days after that new moon energy is still around. It's just not at its peak. So if you missed the video, and you go back to watch it, you can still use those practices. And I just encourage you to use the new moon practices also to think about how you can use that energy to harness a collective vision for us, and to harness a fresh start for us as a society, as a culture, as a country, because we need that healing and we need that fresh start. And I think I just want all of us to be channeling our energy together in one unified vision for where we want to go, right? And this is not the minor details, or this is about how we function as a democracy. So that's where I am. I know it's a little political, but I'm a little political. I studied politics, so like all my content is always going to be speaking out a little bit about politics and about how I view us as humans, equality. Always going to be an inclusive channel. Always going to support Black Lives Matter. Always going to be fighting and being an ally for the LGBT community and creating safe spaces. So yeah, I hope this reading was helpful for you. And yeah, I will see you on the flip side. Take care, stay safe, like and subscribe. Bye.